All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 74 of The Hideout. My name is Nick Frontera, and I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legion's 2029 game. Today, we're going to have an awesome panel talking about Web3 gaming and the Metaverse and all the fun stuff that we've been seeing and is coming up, and have some awesome projects on here to talk about what they're building. I think we are still waiting on one more speaker, so if they come up, we'll get them up here and we'll have the full set. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with introductions of all of our speakers, and we're going to talk a little bit about what everybody's building, a couple housekeeping items right off the bat. As you're doing your presentation, please feel free to pin anything to the top of the spaces. You can do that by going to the post, clicking the little three dots, and then selecting, I think it's like pin to spaces or something at the top. That will allow everybody to see any kind of cool content that you guys are building. We have pinned something to the top of the space right now, which is our recent announcement of our Season 1 campaign for Legion's 2029. We won't spend too much time talking about Legion's 2029 because I know a lot of you are familiar with it, but for those who aren't, Legion's 2029 is our flagship game. It is a PC game built on Unreal Engine 5 that combines elements from RPGs like Diablo and World of Warcraft with more of a hack and slash gameplay loop inspired by games like God of War, all mixed with kind of this roguelike loop that, we looked at games like Hades for inspiration for that. So it's this hybrid game, fully blockchain enabled. You're able to complete transactions within the Unreal Engine client, which was something that took us some time to get down, but now we feel really good about where it's at. And you're going to be able to play that game for free. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff in our first season. You can check out the tweet that I pinned at the top for all the information. There's speedrun tournaments with prizes. We're going to be announcing those prizes soon, and they're going to be pretty cool. So excited for that. But yeah, there's really no downside as long as you have a PC. The game is completely free to play. We're just getting people in, getting feedback, and incorporating that feedback in real time in the game. Having a lot of fun with the community doing so, and excited for the future of Web3 gaming, which is why we do this every week, and we bring an awesome panel of guests, including this week's guests. And what I'll do is I'm going to call on you guys, and then if you could give a quick introduction, let us know what you're building, and we will get started. So let's start with FGL. Thanks for joining us. Nice to have you here.
Hey, thanks so much for inviting me over. First of all, I want to say I hope you can hear me all right, because I'm currently walking through a very windy city in Sweden, because I'm here for a game conference, actually. So I hope that doesn't sort of cause too much trouble on the microphone. But yeah, thanks so much for hosting. Thanks so much for having me. Super quick intro about FGL. We've been active in the game industry already for about 15 years. Started in Flash games on the web a long time ago, pivoted to mobile, and now more than 3 years ago, kind of also made our first steps into Web3 on the Wax blockchain. And with the games that we operate, currently 4 games in our portfolio. We also branched out to other chains like Cardano, and the most recent is actually to Immutable X. So I'm very excited about that.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad to have you on. It does sound like people are having fun over there at the convention, so we'll hear a little bit of that in the background. But great that you could join us. And,
it's a beautiful sunny evening here, and people are out enjoying. But in like 5 minutes time, I should be back in my hotel room, so then it should be quiet again.
Amazing. Well, we'll check back with you very soon for some group questions. But thanks for the introduction. Let's jump over to Love Monsters. Good to see you again. Welcome.
Yo, 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 I am excited to be on this space. Love talking Web3 gaming. We're back in the bull market. Things number go up. So, it's a great time to be talking about what we're building. We actually have TGE scheduled in 2 days. So, thank you for having us. And we're a turn-based strategy game. We have actually several games in the ecosystem. And we just made an announcement yesterday about another game that's coming from our ecosystem, that we're building with our Love Monster IP. So, really excited for today's conversation, and hopefully we kill it together.
All right. Well, great to have you. Let's jump over to Dungeonites Heroes. Welcome. Do we have you guys hearing me? Do we have you over in Dungeonites Heroes? Can we?
You get me, friend?
There we go. Perfect.
Hey,
Yep,
thanks for having me on. This is GD Wizard, representing Dungeonites Heroes tonight. I'm actually the founder there. But before I go on, guys, let's see some likes, a couple of retweets, a couple of comments. Come on, all the normal stuff, some emotions. I can only see one person putting up these little emojis. Let's make this fun, man. We're all gamers here, right? Or most of us should be. Anyway, a bit about my project. It's a fidgeable. This fidgeable is a 6-in-1. It's a physical asset. It's an NFT, a PFP you can carry in your wallet. You can play it digitally. You can play it physically. You can play it over 6 different platforms, plus connections soon coming with our partners. And I'll get more into that later. I'm not here for the shill. I'm here for you guys. So next speaker, get on up and tell us about yourself.
Amazing. Well, I always get excited when I see the crossover between digital and physical. No matter what people are calling them these days, I feel like there's a new term. You know, every couple of days I hear a new one. That was the first for fidgeable.
Well, there's the phygital, which is the physical digital. Mine's a fidgeable. It's a physical, digital, non-fungible asset.
Okay. I like it. All right, cool. Well, we'll have to delve into exactly what that means in the context of what you guys are building. So definitely excited to get there. All right, let's jump over to Spencer, who will run through a few housekeeping things and tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll jump into the questions.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, my name is Spencer Vogel. I am the business development manager with Satoshiverse and with Apollo Entertainment. I'm going to be running the questions for the space today. Just some housekeeping items, as Nick said. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time or have been around for a while, you may have noticed that we are now using the Hideout account as a separate Twitter or separate X account. We're very excited about that. We're expanding the Hideout and trying to do a few more things with it, create some more content around it. So we decided to create a new account. So if you haven't yet, please make sure to follow this account that I'm speaking from right now, the Hideout. It's a new account and we're trying to grow it. Next, we have a giveaway at the end of the space today. So for everyone who is here listening live, make sure you go to the pinned post at the top that says "We're live." In order to enter that giveaway, please give that post a retweet. And then once you retweet that, as long as you're still here at the end of the space when we announce our giveaway winner, you'll have a chance to win 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is an in-game resource that is very, very important in the Satoshiverse. And we'll explain a little bit more about those later, but it's something that you're going to want to get in the game. Moving on now to the actual format of the space. So we're going to start off with questions for everyone in the group here. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the discussion from there. Then we'll move into some individual questions for each of you guys. And then if we have time at the end, we will go back to some questions for the group. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Moving into the questions for the group here. And maybe Love Monster, you could start us off here. So how can we combat some of the negative stereotypes and misconceptions about cryptocurrencies and NFTs to bring new people into the space?
I mean, that's a simple one, right? Only in this space we have our own language. We love to create new words and words that no gamer understands, not even outside people, right? It's almost why we all laugh when we say we're going to the dinner table and we bring up crypto. They're like, wait, what? And then we bring up all these words. I was at GDC last year and I went up to a game developer and he was telling me he was building in Web2 and he just said he was a game developer and I was like, oh, you're building in the Web2 space. And he's like, no, I'm a game developer. And I go, yeah, in the Web 2 space. And he's like, man, I'm a game developer. What do you not understand? And I'm like, yeah, the Web 2 word is something that we made up in the Web 3 space that we like to identify you guys. And like, he's like looking at me with 10 heads, and I'm just like, yeah. And then accessibility, right? Like that's the next thing, right? It's just, again, all these wallets, everything that we have. I think we're probably all here professional traders at this point, or professionals in crypto. And we still kind of like get nervous when we have to hit that sign button in MetaMask to sign something in case we don't know it might get drain our wallets or whatever. And so with all that said, I mean, there's that. And then game experience. I think a lot of us in the space like to put out these alpha or betas. And in Web 2, if you put out an alpha or beta, it's usually that the game is 99% complete and it's very little things that they need to fix. In Web 3, if you put out a beta or an alpha, it means that you're 1% complete. And you literally have one map and one gun and one skin, and it's like you can only run around in a circle. And game developers like to be like, oh yeah, this is our beta, this is our alpha. So it's a huge turn off to the Web 2 people or even gamers when there's not really much there and the game experience is lacked. So yeah, I don't know if I think I'll stop there.
It's just funny coming from the Web 2 space, basically. So, some of a space that I've worked in for 17 years and I'm still working in. That, yeah, I mean, there's, like you say, there's still sort of a lot of aversion to like, oh, the crypto bros, it doesn't matter if you work in NFTs or Web3 or crypto. Like they could just call everyone a crypto bro. And yeah, like I think it's also sort of down to the language, like you said. Like, yeah, we like to sort of invent words, and sometimes also wonder like, well, why do we do that? It's almost like sort of it looks from the outside like we're gatekeeping, and we on the inside we know that's not the way it is. We welcome everyone into the space. Like, come join us. There's always room at the table, right? But yeah, it might sort of come across that way also because of all these funny words that we invent.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of points there to unpack, especially what we were talking about, love monsters. I think there is kind of a little bit of disjointedness on the developer side and what we're trying to build and the value prop that we're trying to convey and the general value prop that's been conveyed by the space over, the last, let's say, 2 to 3 years that Web3 gaming has kind of been a thing. So I totally agree that we need to start focusing on, terms that are more familiar to the general gaming space. I think we need to make the experiences more seamless, like you were saying, with some of our on-ramping and things like social wallets and getting people into scenarios that are more familiar to them, right? And I do think that as developers, we need to be really focused on, the core value props of creating a good game experience, just, regardless of Web 2, Web 3, and some of this vernacular. But I do think that we need to find a way to convey the unique value prop of what we are doing in a way that is familiar to gamers, right? Because I do think that part of what we're building, right, as a whole, is somewhat unique from what we had in the Web 3, or sorry, in the traditional Web 2 space. And so, when you start to think about value propositions like true ownership of digital assets, I think for us, people who have been in the NFT space for a while, we kind of just assume that people understand what that means. But I don't even think, I was an IP lawyer before this, and I know people who attend this space are probably sick of me kind of talking about this, but I don't even think that we as a group, as a community of builders, truly understand what digital ownership in the Web3 space means and how much further it has to come on an infrastructure level before, we truly have ownership over our digital assets. We live in an environment where we assume that because something's an NFT, it comes with a certain set of rights. But that's not the case. Every NFT is going to have different terms attached to it. And typically, those are controlled by whatever contract and terms of service the provider's putting out. There's not some like inherent ownership model yet that applies to NFTs. So I think, as we start to think about how does this become more generally accepted, I think there's a lot we can do on the communication side, on the infrastructure side. But I think as an industry, we need to start, embracing and accepting standards for what it means to truly own a digital asset, right? What rights does that convey? What are we as a community going to honor in those rights? Because it doesn't necessarily mean, you own the NFT, therefore you own the IP, right? That's definitely not what it is. It's definitely not, I own the NFT, therefore I can do whatever I want with it, because there's plenty of projects that limit, what you can do with that NFT after. It's not even, I own the NFT so I can use it everywhere, right? Because obviously there's all sorts of challenges with interoperability and hurdles we have to jump. So I think, our first step is really drilling down into what are the things, why are we building in this space? What is that value prop, right? Where does rubber meet the road on why NFTs are actually useful? And I think right now, we're getting to this concept of open player economies and, and true digital ownership. At least we're starting to define what that means. And I personally believe that this is going to be a very big step forward for the digital collectibles and game assets, industry. And I think it's going to change everything as we move forward, but we still have a lot of work to do. We have work to do on the regulatory side. We have work to do on the infrastructure side. We have work to do on the communication side. So, I think if we start calling these things digital assets and creating smooth player experiences, great. And I think that'll work, for the way we communicate with gamers. But I also think that it's not enough, right? I think we have to, if we truly believe in the Web3 ethos of we want to create these rights, we have to start doing the things that will actually create those rights and creating the technology that will create those rights. So I am going to jump back over to you, Love Monster, now, but I'm also going to bring up Castle of Blackwater. And once we finish this question, we'll have Castle of Blackwater give an introduction because that's our last speaker. All right, back to you, Love Monster.
Yeah, you bring up some great points and theories here, right, as well. I almost want to like throw it back at you and say and ask you, like, again, play a little bit of the devil's advocate here. Is like, do gamers really care about owning the asset? Like, is there truly like a across all gamers? Is that serious? Is that like something that's like at the forefront of their like need or wants? Because I almost want to say that like, I don't know if that is a true statement for I know it in Web3 it is like, oh yeah, totally. I'm all for like, yeah, owning the asset. But does the larger population have that same idea? And I say that because we see people year after year just go into different new games and whatever that new season is or whatever it is, be able to spend, right? And so I just want to kind of like throw it back at you and almost like play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I'll definitely answer that. I see Castle of Blackwater has their hand up. So why don't you jump in? Welcome to the space. If you want to give a quick introduction and then answer the question if you want, if that's why you had the hand up.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm really sorry that I'm kind of late. I did the big mistake of attempting to join via desktop, which I'll never do again. So sorry about that. Just a quick pitch here. Castle of Blackwater is a social deduction game where there are three factions: the Protectors, the Satanic, and the Forgotten. Again, the Protectors are the good guys. Their task is to complete their task is to complete objectives within the game and fill out the XP bar. That's how they win. And also they must be able to convey information to each other and find out who the killers are and vote them out. The Satanic are the killers. Their job is to not only kill the Protectors, it's to also fool them into kicking each other out. And the Forgotten is a hybrid class where in order for them to win, they have to complete one easy, one medium, one hard task, and during the night cycle of the game, they can become a werewolf and they need to kill one protector and one satanic. The unique thing we bring into the social deduction space is that usually in games like, let's say, Among Us, once you're dead, you're basically useless. In our game, once you're dead, you become this cute little ghost and you're able to collect ghost points. With those ghost points, you're able to help the people that are alive. So the best example I can give here is if you were a satanic, one of the killers, and you died, you could then collect ghost points and unlock abilities that can stun the protectors so that they're easier to kill. Or if you're one of the protectors and you died, then you can collect ghost points and send messages to the people that are alive. So it just creates a very challenging environment, and it's really fun. Um, so that's a bit on what Castle Blackwater is. Now, I also did want to answer the question there. So I really agree with what Love Monster said. I think that games like CS:GO have proven that players have a desire to own their items and be able to just bolster their value and just showcase them to the world. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is the gameplay, right? You can have the best ever implementation of Web3. You can have like the best market the world has ever seen. Like take the CS:GO weapons market and just multiply it by 1,000. But at the end of the day, if you don't have an actual core game that will engage the audience and just, um, keep their interest in a loop, make them want to come back, because once you create a game, you're basically competing for attention. In order for people to play your game, that means that they're not playing something else. So you have to be, um, entertaining and engaging at the same time. So that's kind of, my opinion when it comes to it. And I think that, it's why most of the first generation play to earn games failed, because they focused a lot on the economic side and just being Web3, but they failed to actually pour some time into the actual gameplay. Right I remember at least 2 years, 1 or 2 years ago, there were so many card games and stuff like that. And I mean, yes, a few of them succeeded, but at the end of the day, you need a successful game. If you just go on full Web3 integration, but the game is not there, the product is not there, then I believe that it will lead to failure eventually. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
Well, really appreciate you joining, and yeah, the desktop thing is still a little bit of a nightmare. So I'm glad you're able to make it on finally. I guess kind of to respond to Love Monster's point, I agree with a lot of it. I think that there's a few things to unpack, and part of it is what Castle Blackwater just said, which is I think we've had a tendency to over financialize a lot of these gaming experiences, and I know that wasn't necessarily your point, Love Monster, but I do think that when we talk about back to the question, what can we do to really make this kind of more of a mainstream thing and to get rid of some of the negative stereotypes. I think a lot of the problems in Web3 gaming, or blockchain enabled gaming, as I kind of like to call it, is related to the over financialization of a game that doesn't need to be financialized. And of course, if you're building a project, you likely have holders, you likely have people who have supported you along the way. And there are financial aspects to a lot of the things within these ecosystems. And so you definitely have to be conscious of that if your game starts out as a Web3 project or if there's Web3 elements to it. But I think when we're talking long term, I truly believe that if Web3 gaming is successful, it's not going to be because Web3 projects start making great games. I think it's going to be because the technology, the value proposition of the technology is such that great game companies, great studios, great publishers start incorporating Web3 technology in their games on the back end, smoothly, transitionlessly, making it easy for players to play. And then I think, to answer the point more directly, Love Monster, I think when we're thinking about does true item ownership, does truly owning your digital assets matter to most gamers, I think that the answer is kind of a complicated one, right? I think there's a few scenarios where it matters. I think first there's going to be scenarios where something happens, right? You get your game account banned for some silly reason, and it's automated by some bot detection software, and maybe you were logging in too many times, and now your account's suspended, and you were trying to sell an item that was a limited time item. I mean, there's countless examples of detection software messing up, and you have to go through the appeals process, and it's a whole thing, and sometimes it doesn't work. And I've gotten accounts hacked in the past that just don't offer the layer of these accounts don't necessarily offer the layer of security that a blockchain wallet would. So I think that when we start to unpack what truly owning your digital assets means, I think we start to think about, okay, well, I'm going to have a blockchain wallet that has actual assets on it, right? And that blockchain wallet is protected by all sorts of encryption, right? And as long as I don't do certain things that make my wallet susceptible to hackers, I'm going to have more control over that, to the point where even the game, creator, the developer, won't be able to take those assets out of my wallet. And there are going to be ways. I think it's silly for us to think, oh, like the game developer can't do anything if I cheat, or if I hack someone, or if I'm cheating in some other way, right? Because there's a million things the game developer can still do, even with NFTs. But the idea of owning your digital assets, I think, combats some of the problems that users have had in the space in the past. So I think that there's that first example of, well, when things go wrong, it's going to matter to that gamer, right? But like you said, your traditional gamer is happy, buying all those CSGO skins and using a centralized marketplace to trade it. Or, for whatever reason, people love to spend tons of money on FIFA Ultimate Team players just so that the next year it can all be erased and they can, spend it all over again on the next year's season. I think that's crazy. And I think that if consumers had a choice that was clearly, conveyed to them in a way that they understood, it would be a no-brainer that they want that ownership, right? They want an asset that can be taken forward, that can grow, that can expand, that can be incorporated into other gaming experiences. Now, if the developer, that's a different story, right? Go tell FIFA or EA that these Ultimate Team characters, they're not going to be able to keep their money printing machine running year after year after year after year with these characters because of some NFTs thing. And I think that's where you're going to see a little bit of pushback from the AAA developer community on whether they want to implement it. But then I think you start to go into, okay, what else is possible? Some of the things that we talk about theoretically now, I think in 5 to 10 years are going to be much more feasible. Things like true interoperability, right? The ability to use an asset in different environments, and an entire rights infrastructure, legal infrastructure from a regulatory perspective to allow that to happen. And I know we talk a little bit about this on most of our spaces, and it's that right now that infrastructure doesn't exist because the traditional gaming space is a closed system, and each developer who creates a game creates a closed system, and everything within that system is controlled by contract law. But when we talk about the physical collectible space, the physical clothing space, the way that physical assets, interact with intellectual property, it's an entirely different schema because we assume an open system from the starting point, right? And so I truly believe that as this digital world expands, we need to move closer to an open system with kind of experiences within it. And I think the only way that you can do that is to establish a legal infrastructure around digital assets. But prior to NFTs, there wasn't really any tangible asset to look to and say, hey, that's actually a thing that I can give you rights to. The only thing, in that prior case was the intellectual property itself. And the only rights I could give you was a right to display that intellectual property and a sublicense to use it within my ecosystem. Because I couldn't convey rights to use it within someone else's ecosystem. And, I could only convey as much as I owned as a developer. So what I think we could see is a general standard shifting in how we look at digital assets because of what NFTs enable. And I think it'll start to matter to users once they understand that, digital doesn't have to be so different from physical. Because I guess if I came back to you and I said, hey, that physical collectible that I sold you of that Superman doll that you have on your shelf, how would you like it if I could take it back at any time and tell you, hey, it's actually not really yours, I'm just lending it to you, right? Which is the state of affairs in just about every gaming environment. Hey, you can't sell that, or at least if you sell it, you got to go through us. That's a pretty restrictive system, right? And then I think people would think that's crazy if we applied it to physical collectibles. And so I do believe that as the digital space grows, we're going to move closer to what we have in the physical space. And I think the value prop of NFTs is that it allows us to get there. All right, Castle Blackwater, back to you.
Yep, I mean, you made some really great points there. Again, I think gameplay and the technology are tied together because, as I said before, I believe that gameplay and just how the game itself, the product itself is structured matters the most. But I can also agree that, as technology develops, the games will also be better. And so I think that again, once these AAA studios start incorporating these technologies, the games will be better, and then people will be more engaged with them. I mean, the best example that I personally like myself, I don't know if many people here know Valorant. It's basically a first-person shooter game, and it has a bit of controversy, especially when it launched, because the anti-cheat it uses is a kernel level anti-cheat, which means that it basically has access to your whole computer from the moment that you start up. And it's been effective in doing that. But the problem is that, do you really feel comfortable with an application with a major corporation having kernel level anti-cheat access on your PC? And the best example that I always give is that, what if we created a first person shooter anti-cheat based on blockchain technology? That would allow you to record everything that's happened inside of the game, which means that uh, everything becomes a public record. So, for example, every skill shot, every headshot within the game gets recorded. And then, based on that, you can take action on your account. So, the people who get banned, they are able to see exactly how they were banned. It makes everything transparent, because now you're not relying on Riot Games or whichever company is developing that software to protect your data and um, comply with regulations. And the last thing is that it's powered by the blockchain, so that means that it will be basically impenetrable. Because right now, like even the kernel level anti-cheat, if I go on TikTok right now, I will see literal TikTok lives with people using anti-cheats on Valorant and then selling them on for hundreds of dollars. So uh, I think that when it comes to gaming, the blockchain in itself will be able to offer us some um, innovations in technology that will allow us to create more impenetrable software and fair competition all over. But yeah, aside from that, I mean, we are a long way from there, right? I mean, AAA studios, they have a lot of games to push out. They have a lot of content left in their basement. So I do not think we're gonna see a massive AAA push soon, especially given that Web3 has this kind of stigma around it of being, a scam and stuff like that. So I don't think companies would be willing to risk losing shareholders over that just yet. But yeah, it does have some really interesting implications for the future, and I'm really excited. I'm always excited to see how far we can push the boundaries.
Awesome. So I want to move us on to individual questions. So the first individual question here is going to be for Martine at FGL. So FGL is a big cross-chain focus in its games, with Outlaw Troopers launching soon on IMX and Machiavellic being playable on both Wax and Cardano. So how do you see this cross-chain approach being important for Web3 games, now and into the future?
Yeah, so for us, it's mainly been also about just reaching more people, unlocking a bigger audience. Like we entered first on Wax about 3 years ago, and like in this time we got ourselves familiar with just the like how the games with NFTs, the whole Web3 space, and the whole culture and community behind it. And on the other side, of course, also the technical kind of things, because of course there's quite a few different elements involved compared to just like traditional Web2 game development. And I mean, from the start, we always kind of set out with a vision to go multi-chain and sort of connect multiple audiences to each other through our games. First of all of the games that we operate they're all connected through our FGL token. And also they have, NFTs that are sort of interoperable that you can use across all the different games. Not all the NFTs, like some of them are really like game specific, especially kind of more the lower level ones. But we do implement interoperability like as much as possible, especially for like sort of the main characters of the games, the main NFTs. So, like really working on that and building something out that was like stable, has been like running with a very stable economy for all these years. So yeah, that's when I think last year we first started branching out, also like looking into other chains. So end of last year, we started with the project Machiavellic, that was kind of already announced and already had a community on Cardano, and we helped those guys to bring it over to Wax. And now like the launch is like the further rollout of that game is simultaneously on both chains. So that's been an interesting journey as well. And then with Outlaw Troopers, that was already like fully launched in live on Wax for the last 18 months. Really active community, working well, tournament based, with all kind of different types of events also to keep players engaged and keep them like building out, keep them like, engaged to build out their base, and sort of, build their Outlaw Troopers empire, as we say. Yeah, it was kind of the time to also start looking into like how we can sort of branch out and bring the game to a bigger audience as well. And of course, we started looking at chains that basically work well with Wax, where it wouldn't be we wouldn't be facing too many sort of technical hurdles also to make it work cross chain. So it was around the time of GDC this year, actually, when we sat down with the guys of Immutable, already started talking about the details. And since that time, we've been working on the implementation and like testing everything. And we're super excited that we're ready for the NFT drop on the Immutable X chain next week on May 28th. And then the game will be playable there as well, mid-June. So like two weeks later. I mean, and for anyone who wants to sort of try it out, there's already a free-to-play version of the game as well. Because we think it's fair that people can give the game a try and see if it's something for them, something that they enjoy, before they spend some money on the NFTs to really sort of get further involved with the game as well. So that's kind of what we've been working on the last couple of weeks. But the most interesting challenge in that as well was also because of the just kind of the gas fee structure with it, where on Wax we're kind of spoiled with very very little, well, basically no fees there. Making you think very differently about transactions and not really sort of minding loads of them. But yeah, on IMX, that's also why we decided to also structure the drop a little bit different, where we're working with packs. So like a couple of the sort of more bigger ticket items with like big packs, where also we were sort of saving a little bit on transaction cost there with the minting of that. And of course also, because like our number one priority is always to keep the game accessible. So also, of course, some smaller packs with just a couple dollar value, just to kind of get people into the game, get them started with some of the Trooper NFTs. So yeah, we really hope that we get to reach a very diverse audience there as well, as just as well as on Wax. And I mean, in our Discord, we're just trying to also sort of bring those communities together and let them mingle a little bit. It's always interesting to see how people who basically are got started on a different chain and sort of dedicated themselves to the chain, how they sort of get curious about other chains and also sort of try to branch out for themselves and sort of their own exploration journey of going cross chain. Because every chain just works very differently in just the way that you set up a wallet, or the way that you sort of structure, or even the marketplace and things like that. So in that sense, it's definitely sort of not something like super easy to navigate around yet, but it's been fun for us exploring that as well.
Awesome. Well, the approach makes a lot of sense, and everyone who's out there, make sure you check out FGL's launch that's coming out, in the next couple weeks. So moving on to our next individual question here, to GD Wizard over at Dungeon Knights. So you were talking before that you are, creating a phygital product. So I was wondering if you could tell us what opportunities do you see for merging the physical and digital worlds within gaming?
Instant, unbelievable, and I'm kind of surprised no one else has done it yet. There's a lot of concepts, a lot of parts, I guess, moving parts to get it to happen. That's true. It took me about 2 years to really find a way for everything to work together. So if you could look at this rather than being a game as a platform, and this platform built by me, I'm buying into it as well as a founder. So as founders, everyone that buys in as a founder is actually assisting in the growth of the project without being a DAO. It is designed to, assist anyone that's a part of it that way. But going deeper is all these founders are actual real founders from real projects, or they're content creators, influencers, or they're builders, devs, or other. So all the people that we've got in the project currently are people that have been doing good in this space. I call them heroes, hence the name Dungeon Knights Heroes. So all the heroes in this space that have done good, busted balls through the bear market. You guys know the ones, you know them. You know the guys that have been dumping money and had the cash and were paying for hype and bots. We don't want them. I'm not interested. Keep your AAA game and your AAA garbage that comes with it, to be honest, if it's going to be like that. But we see people that really are, the geniuses in this space is working quietly in the corner. And you know what? They nearly left this space because a project destroyed them last time. Not a project, a bot, right? The bot got in and drove his floor price to the floor. Just something like that. He's brokenhearted, but he probably was going to have the next piece of tech that was going to drive this space through to the 28th century or something crazy. And I noticed this problem in the space. So what I try to do is build a platform with a bunch of founders connected to real projects and then connecting to real projects members. So most of the members in these projects, they also are hardened veterans through the bear market. They supported their own group and their own founders all the way through it. We love that. We want to support them. And then bring it back the other way. So we're getting the new traffic through IRL. We're releasing these physical cards. They'll be sold as NFTs originally, as a pre-sale, if you like, so people can have them in different parts of the world ready. So the founders will be helping with distribution as well. And then your next stage after that is getting it to the people on the streets. So we'll be connecting with a lot of the game stores, card stores, all your typical IRL stuff that you normally see with marketing. That'll come next. But once it gets into the hands of someone, first of all, it's cheap. It's about $15 USD worldwide. Okay, I made them as cheap as we possibly could. And this person now has the game in their hand, which they can play. I put it up on the jumbo screen. That card there, that's a real one. That's one of the testers I had sent out. I've got about 26 of them here at the moment, but I keep improving it. So this isn't even the game card yet. There's still more on it that you haven't seen. But the game is played by the little gemstones you see on the sides there. They'll be on the front and the back. You've got more aggressive or offensive moves, And then you've got counter and other moves on the back, and the players can sit down and play that. So that's one card game. You've also got the other game, which is the elimination style game. But that card there also has NFC technology. It also has QR code, serial number, and a security number. And all of those things give it its IRL, NFT, or non-fungible application. So now you have a PFP, you've got the hero. That's the hero on the card there. Her name is Grenthia Lostrom. And she is in a legendary casing there. So if you get legendary, it'll look like that. That's the outer border for it. So it looks pretty. So they've paid $15. They got a card, but that NFC tech connects them to the world of Web3 instantly. First of all, it connects them to the games that go with that hero. So you can play as Grenthia in 2D, 3D, 3D, in a choose your own destiny book, and then the card games themselves. And then we have partners that are connected with us where we can eventually, and we'll move on to get more, play in different other games as our own heroes. We've written up the lore for them in these books. So each character comes with their own complete lore, and the choose your destiny or the decide your own destiny game we built in it means you play through that book. So all these things I've done here, these are all IRL things that we could already do. And all we've done is add the NFT side to it. Well, I own a nice collection of playable NFTs that are all interoperable, editable, lockable. They have play to earn attached to them in 2D at the moment, on Discord at the moment, soon to be in 3D. They're all ready to go. But the problem is from the last market, everyone was so focused on selling and making a bunch of cash that all the good projects lost out on getting the money they needed to go forward. Well, knowing that people are just going to flip out in that area, why would I try and market to it? So we're marketing people now that don't care about the bear or the bull market. We're going to the IRL people. So the next bear or bull that hits, they don't care. As long as we've developed a good game and a good way to introduce them to the game, we've got our player base solid. But when they get into the app and they play our games, we have access to our partners in there, so they can learn more about security. They can learn about Web 2. They can learn about Web3 wallets. They could learn about all of these things in a safer environment than just jumping on YouTube and hoping for the best, because we've vetted all of our partners. So if you come to me for security, I send you to Mint Defense. If you want to get a tradable card game, I go through my partners list in the games and say, here's a list of our partners. But in our app, they can do it automatically. They just click gaming, partners. Oh, cool. Have a widget in there. They click on the widget for daily events. Now everything's incorporated. You've got 2D, Web3, and that physical card as well. Once it's registered, they can then print the NFT on their device, which goes into a wallet that we make for them. And then when they're ready and they go through the right steps and they learn enough, we open up that wallet to them and they can then trade their own NFT. Their first NFT that they printed for free themselves. It wasn't illegal for me to sell them an NFT because they made that NFT themselves. Keep that in mind. That's how we got past the laws in Thailand. Any questions? Because I could ramble about this all day. It goes a lot deeper, but I just tried to nail it all on the head as quickly as I could.
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, I've been a big fan of this concept. I remember, gosh, it's probably 10 years ago at this point when Disney tried to do this in kind of the traditional space with Disney Infinity, which was in my opinion, a really cool concept. I know I have a bunch of those figurines still. And for those of you who didn't know, that they essentially sold figurines that can then be placed on a platform and used within their game, featuring, the IP as a figurine and then as a 3D, playable character in the game. And what I thought was so unique about this is they were able to kind of use their conventional distribution channels to sell something that people wanted, irrespective of everything else attached to it. But it had there were so many more layers you could unlock. And I think that the potential for that in the blockchain space is just so much more, because now you're not conveying just a physical object with a digital counterpart. You're conveying a physical object with some sort of tangible digital counterpart, which opens up, an entire secondary trading market and kind of the distribution channels. Now, I think one of the challenges, at least I've seen, which would be probably a topic for a whole other conversation, is how do you keep them paired together, right? And I think there's a lot of, projects and platforms trying to address that challenge with the NFC chip and things like you mentioned. But I think
we've already got that covered, my man. Totally covered.
Yeah, well, if you found a
It took me a
solution,
long time to figure it out,
yeah.
trust me, but I got it. I worked it out. It's completely doable. It's 2 or 3 steps, and there's no intrusion of privacy. You know, I don't need to know your blood type or anything like that. Don't need your DNA. I don't need a personal number. I don't need your home address. I don't need these things. But there's a couple of steps that need to be made. And I got an idea from Energy Network, Energy blockchain. They have a 3-day buffer period, right? So if an asset goes through them on their network, it actually takes 3 days to extract it out of that network. And if there's a complaint or if they find some dirty stuff going on, they can retrace the funds. Well, we can do the exact same thing with a physical asset. Now, let's say you get yours stolen. I mean, you're a poor kid. You're 9 years old and the bully down the road stole you. Guess what? I lock that card. I've got the NFC. I've got the serial number. I've got the security number. I just lock that card. So he tries to enter in with that card and it just pops up stolen. That's it. He can't access the app with that card. And I get the kid on the email or however he contact me and I say, what's your address? I'll send you a brand new one. I know exactly what card it is and I'll send you a new serial number and a new code and just enter it in when you get it, register it, and it's brand new again. It's that easy. I thought it was going to be a lot more complicated, but when I went through the steps, it's easy. Even bad sales, you catch out bad actors in sales the same way.
No, and I think that is, I've been kind of seeing this approach different ways, and I think that there are some really interesting methods of kind of centralizing certain components to it, right? Maintaining certain control over certain smart contract functions, and I think this is one of the biggest, question marks in the space. How do you do this for art? Things that can't be, for example, reproduced easily. I do think that there are, challenges here. And I'd love, if we have another space in the future as you guys continue to develop, I'd love to have you on and talk specifically about that. I'm gonna kick it back to Spencer because I know we got a couple more questions we can get in, but that was, definitely a huge area of interest for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Dungeon Knights Heroes. Looks like we lost Love Monster here. Hopefully we get them back. But let's go to Castle Blackwater here. So, in what ways do you think Web3 technology can improve the social deduction gaming genre?
I mean, social deduction as a genre and as a game itself, it's very human based. What I mean by that is that the majority of the gameplay in itself is conducted by people collaborating with each other, communicating with each other. So in terms of the core gameplay in itself, which is communication amongst people, at the moment, I do not think that there is a possible utility that can um, affect that social communication and that social deduction aspect of the game. But currently, at the phase we are with Web3 technology, there are, however, some things you can do for a game that like that in general. So, the first thing would be perhaps interoperable identities and reputation. So, for example, in Castle Blackwater, sometimes there are like these major plays that happen, like there is one person who manages to fool 5 people at the same time, or there is one killer who just wins the game by himself. I think that what could be done here potentially is that if a player manages to accomplish one of these objectives, one of these skill-based objectives, so to speak, they can have some form of title attached to them. So, for example, master manipulator, or I don't know, like serial killer, for example. And these titles could then be attached to their profiles, which would allow them to essentially just sort of quote unquote flex it onto other players as they join more and more lobbies. And I think that's one of the core aspects that can where I can think of that Web3 could be really introduced right now. The other thing is you could potentially introduce cryptocurrency earning, so a form of play to earn, in a sense, where players play the game and then based on meeting certain actions, certain criteria for that case, they can earn crypto tokens. And again, I think that the most major incorporation of Web3 in our project, at least, and in most projects, is that our cosmetics are provided as non-fungible tokens, as NFTs. So I think that when it comes to core gameplay, right? So you asked me whether, for example, how it can improve the social deduction genre. The way that can happen is through, again, universal identities, universal titles that show off that the player has achieved certain achievements through meeting criteria. And the second part, it would be through, again, ownership of NFTs. In terms of the core gameplay in itself, in terms of how the game itself functions, um, aside from of optimization or maybe some form of communication logs, uh, there isn't really anything that the blockchain in itself could assist towards when it comes to that. But another aspect that I have been thinking about lately is AI teammates, right? Right now we're facing an issue where, like, for example, if there are, let's say, 14 people, right, and joining our game nights, and each lobby is 10 people, then you have 4 people that are left in there by themselves. And I think that if we were able to create AI teammates that could speak and just navigate and interact with you um, through AI technology, I think that could be a massive improvement. So, yeah, I would say the best way that the Web3 technology can improve the social deduction genre at the moment is through the usage of AI. That could be either through AI teammates, through AI NPCs located within the castle that give you quests. And besides that, the only thing that will make a difference, so to speak, will be universally recognizable names, titles in that case. So, for example, if you've killed 5 people by yourself and won the game, you get a serial killer title. And yeah, I mean, aside from that, it could be also used to distribute the rewards to users, again, like through various criteria. And that's kind of my take on it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, definitely agree on all those points, and especially like around digital identity and a reputation, especially. I think there's huge use cases for that in gaming, and we're very excited about that. But we are at the end of the hour here, so it is time to actually choose the winner of our giveaway. And the winner this week is at Grown Tree Max. At Grown Tree Max, congratulations. You have won 5 Satoshi's crystals. In order to claim those, you will just need to go to game.legions2029.com and create a free account. And then please send us a DM with your username and account, and we'll make sure to get you your prize. Nick, I will pass it back to you to close us out, though.
Amazing. Well, congrats, Grown Tree. I know you've been here for many, many spaces and in the community for a long time. So congrats. And thank you to all that continue to support this space. I first want to shout out to our speakers. Thank you for another amazing, engaging conversation. Every one of you brings a unique perspective to the space based on your experience and what you're building. And, I'm fortunate. And truly, I think it's what helps me keep going during the hard times is that every week I get to hang out with you guys and hear some really, really smart takes on where this is all going, even if I don't always personally agree with them. And I think that's the beauty of this is that there are so many different perspectives being brought to this space and just so much that we can build together and a lot of good intentions. I mean, I think we talked about our first question was about what it's going to take to flip the script. I think it's people like the people on this stage, people like the people in the audience who genuinely care about the future of this space, the future of the infrastructure that we're building, how all this expands, how we achieve these meta goals, through this technology. And I love to see all the different takes and experimentation, because something's going to stick, right? For every 10 bad ideas, there's going to be a good one, and it's going to take the space forward. So thank you so much for the speakers for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us. I definitely look forward to talking to each of you in the future and seeing if there's ways we can collaborate with what we're building. Huge thank you to the guests. I'm actually gonna bring Love Monster back on stage because I know they had some technical issues. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do is just one quick plug. We've been doing this every week now. I think we said we're on episode 74. So it's been over a year and close to a year and a half now that we're getting to of weekly spaces. There's no sponsors, none of that stuff. We're just bringing great minds up there. So the best thing you can do is give us a follow. Join us next week. We want to keep bringing great speakers on here, and I know that people attending is a big motivating factor for great projects and great speakers to jump on. So we'll keep doing what we're doing, but thank you all to those who watch the live version and those who listen to the recorded version. Really, really excited to be able to keep doing this. A lot of people work hard on it. So thank you. Thank you. We will be back next week at the same time with a new panel. And so please give all the speakers a follow. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut up. I'm going to open the mic up to anyone who wants to jump in and give a quick, final words, say goodbye, give a quick plug. And then I'm going to wait, I'll say goodbye and I'll wait about 30 seconds because there's a lag, and then we'll end the spaces. Thank you all so much. And now opening the mic up to the speakers.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for the space. I did rug a little bit, but I'm back. Again, RTGs on the 23rd. We're going to be listed on Gate and Mexi. Would love any support from everybody here that's listening. I appreciate you guys, and like these are the kind of spaces that we need to keep doing every week to be able to push the space forward. It's about talking about conversations that there's obstacles and how we can work together to overcome them. So thank you again for hosting the space, and looking forward to the next one.
I guess I'll jump in because I have to go to a meeting after this. I just want to say shout out to Satoshiverse. This is my first time coming to the Hideout, and I really, really enjoyed this. I think that you guys bring quite you brought some personality here, which you don't often see in these spaces. So big shout out to you guys, in there. I also want to give a shout out to Love Monster. They are some great people over there. Really, really awesome guys. And I just want to close off by saying, make sure to give us a follow here at Castle of Blackwater. We give regular updates, and make sure to click the link in our bio and go to our Discord. Our Discord is huge. It's where you can find our gameplay, meet other people, send in memes, and just have fun, right? One special thing is that we are currently running a weekly mini game competition in our Telegram, where the user who has the most points by Sunday every week gets to win $25 just like that, and it's a few fun mini games. So give us a follow, join our Discord, come to our Discord and meet people over there, try our game, come to our game nights. We have a game night today in about an hour from now, and make sure to join our Telegram and play the mini games so you can get some free money. Again, thank you very much to Satoshiverse. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye bye.
I'll grab that spot. I want to thank all the other speakers for coming up. They're all great. Like they said, give them all a follow, guys. Keep this space strong. Let everyone know about them. Give them a retweet too, if you like, while you're at it on one of their pinned. That's always good to help. Satoshiverse, it's always a pleasure. Never a chore. Hideout, doing great things. Much love. Everyone else, thanks for putting up with me. I'll see you all next time.
All right. Unless anyone has anything else, I am going to close up the space. Thank you so much to everyone for joining, and we will see you next week.